This 5-gallon bucket is sitting on a concrete slab. No garden, no raised bed, no soil in the ground, and it produced 114 strawberries in a single season. Not because of luck, not because of an expensive setup, because of one specific system that every popular strawberry video either gets completely wrong or never mentions at all. I am showing you the entire system today. Every detail, nothing held back. Drop a comment right now and tell me what country you are watching from. I want to see every single location in this community. If you are trying to produce serious food from a tiny space without spending serious money, that is exactly what we dig into here every single week. Subscribe right now so you never miss a method that actually works. Today, I am breaking down the complete bucket strawberry system from a completely different angle than anything I've covered before. New setup details, new variety insights, new feeding triggers, new troubleshooting fixes. If you have tried growing strawberries in a bucket before and been disappointed, today is the video that explains exactly why and fixes it permanently. Let's get into it. Here's the pattern I see constantly in competitor content on this topic. Someone films a beautiful bucket setup, shows you the planting, fast forwards to a handful of berries, calls it a success. Then in the comments, I only got 8 berries. Mine flowered but never fruited. My plants looked healthy but produced nothing worth eating. The gap between the thumbnail promise and the actual result comes down to one thing consistently. Those videos show you the setup but skip the system. The setup is the container and the soil. The system is the variety decision, the temperature management, the pollination reality of container growing, the feeding triggers, and the runner removal discipline that determines whether you get 8 berries or 114. Setup without system produces decoration. System produces harvest. Today is about the system. This is the single biggest gap in every bucket strawberry video I've ever watched, and it is responsible for more missing harvests than any other factor. Strawberries require pollination to set fruit. Every flower must receive pollen before it can develop into a berry. In an open garden, bees, wind, and other insects handle this automatically. In a container on a balcony, rooftop, or enclosed patio, natural pollination is dramatically reduced. Here's what happens in practice. Your strawberry plant produces beautiful flowers. The flowers open. But bees may or may not visit, depending on your location and growing environment. Flowers that receive incomplete or no pollination develop misshapen berries, the characteristic button-shaped or cone-shaped fruits with flat sides that container growers commonly report, or the flowers simply drop without setting any fruit at all. In a limited pollination environment, the majority of your potential harvest disappears at the flower stage before a single berry ever forms. The fix that competitor videos never show you. Hand pollination takes 30 seconds per plant per day during flowering, and it eliminates the pollination problem completely. Take a small, clean paintbrush. Any soft brush works. Gently brush the center of each open flower in a circular motion. Move from flower to flower without cleaning the brush between them. You are transferring pollen between flowers exactly as a bee would. Do this every morning during the flowering period when pollen is most active. Morning pollination before 10 a.m. produces significantly better fruit set than afternoon pollination because pollen viability peaks in the morning hours. The result of consistent hand pollination in a container environment, every flower that is structurally healthy sets fruit. No button berries from incomplete pollination. No drop flowers from zero pollination. Every pollinated flower becomes a berry. In my testing, this single habit increased berry count per plant from an average of 14 to an average of 31, more than doubled. From 30 seconds of daily attention during flowering. This is the detail that separates 100 berry buckets from 20 berry buckets, and it is absent from virtually every competitor video on this topic. Every bucket strawberry video starts with the same assumption. 1 bucket. Standard setup. Plants in the top. I want to challenge that assumption at the foundation level because the standard bucket is the wrong shape for maximizing strawberry production, and understanding why changes everything about how you approach the setup. Strawberry plants fruit from the crown outward. The more crown exposure to light from multiple angles, the more flowering sites activate simultaneously. A plant receiving light from one direction, the top, activates fewer flowering sites than a plant receiving light from multiple directions. The standard bucket with plants in the top gives every plant one light direction, downward from above. The side-planted tower system I'm describing today gives every side-planted plant light from the side, angled upward. Side light activates the lateral flowering sites that top-only light never reaches. Here is the specific setup that maximizes lateral light exposure for every plant in the system. Use a 5-gallon bucket with a light-colored exterior, white, cream, or pale gray. Light color reflects ambient light back onto the side-planted plants rather than absorbing it. This reflection delivers 20 to 30% more light to side-planted crowns than a dark-colored bucket in the same position. Drill side holes in a true spiral pattern, not rows, not pairs, not clusters. A spiral. Starting 4 inches from the base, each hole offset 40 degrees from the previous one, spaced 5 inches vertically. The spiral pattern serves a specific purpose that row patterns cannot. It ensures that no plant sits directly above another plant at any point in the spiral. Direct vertical alignment creates a light shadow where the upper plant blocks direct light from reaching the crown of the plant below it. Spiral offset eliminates every shadow point. Every plant receives unobstructed lateral light from its specific angle. Hole diameter, 2¼ inches, not 2 inches, not 2½ inches. 2¼ inches allows the crown of a standard strawberry transplant to sit flush with the bucket exterior without being forced through the hole under pressure. Forcing a crown through an undersized hole bruises the crown tissue. But bruised crown tissue is the entry point for crown rot, the disease that kills side-planted strawberries faster than anything else. Total holes in a standard 5-gallon bucket using this spiral. 8 side holes plus the top opening, 9 planting positions, 9 plants. With consistent hand pollination and correct day-neutral variety selection, 9 plants in this system produce 100+ berries across the season. I covered variety selection in previous strawberry content, but today I want to go deeper on the specific performance differences between varieties in a 9-plant bucket tower, because performance varies significantly at high planting density. At 9 plants per bucket, root zone competition is real. Varieties that perform well at low density sometimes underperform at high density because their root architecture is more aggressive and competitive. The varieties that perform best specifically at high density tower planting, Albion, in cool to moderate climates. Albion has a compact root architecture compared to other day-neutral varieties. Its roots grow predominantly downward rather than laterally. In a high-density planting, downward root architecture means each plant occupies a distinct vertical zone rather than competing horizontally with adjacent plants at the same depth level. At 9 plants per bucket, Albion root zones stack vertically rather than competing laterally. Each plant feeds from its own depth band in the mix column. This is why Albion outperforms other varieties at tower density specifically. Seascape in warm climates. Seascape produces a higher flower-to-fruit conversion rate than any other day-neutral variety I have tested in warm conditions. In environments where heat reduces pollen viability, reducing the effectiveness of even consistent hand pollination, Seascape's higher flower production compensates. More flowers mean more successful pollination events, even at reduced individual flower pollen viability. For gardeners watching from Nigeria, Ghana, the Philippines, Jamaica, India, and the southern United States, Seascape plus consistent morning hand pollination is the combination that produces the highest berry counts in warm growing environments. The variety that looks right but performs wrong at tower density. Chandler, June bearing, produces exceptional large berries, recommended constantly in videos. Wrong for this system for 2 specific reasons. First, June-bearing varieties produce one flush of fruit then shift energy entirely to runner production. In a 9-plant tower, simultaneous runner production from 9 plants creates an unmanageable tangle that exhausts every plant within weeks. Second, Chandler has aggressive lateral root architecture. At 9 plant density, Chandler root systems compete intensely in the shared horizontal root zones. Plants in the middle of the root column are progressively outcompeted. Yield drops dramatically in the central planting positions. Day-neutral varieties with downward root architecture only. In a tower. Always. Standard container mix in a 9-plant tower creates one problem that single-plant container mix does not encounter. Compaction under load. 9 plants plus their root systems plus repeated watering creates significantly more downward compaction pressure than a single plant. By week 6 in a standard mix, the lower third of the tower has compacted to a density that restricts root penetration and oxygen availability for the bottom planting layer. Bottom layer plants show the effects first: slower growth, fewer flowers, smaller berries. Most growers blame bottom hole position for poor light exposure. The real cause is compacted anaerobic mix around the roots of bottom layer plants. The mix that resists compaction under 9-plant tower load: 1 part coconut coir, 1 part perlite at a higher ratio than standard, 40% perlite by volume, rather than the usual 25 to 30%. 1 part aged compost. Add 1 handful of biochar per gallon of total mix volume. The elevated perlite ratio is the key difference from standard mix. Perlite particles are rigid and incompressible. At 40% volume, there are enough perlite particles distributed through the mix that they physically prevent the surrounding coir and compost from closing the air spaces between them, regardless of the load above. Biochar provides the permanent micropore structure that supports microbial activity at every level of the column simultaneously. Without biochar, microbial activity concentrates near the surface where fresh oxygen and water arrive first. Lower levels become microbiologically depleted, but roots in depleted zones grow slowly regardless of nutrient availability. This specific mix maintains consistent density, oxygen availability, and microbial activity from the top hole to the bottom hole all season. Feeding 9 plants from one central mix column requires a different approach than feeding 1 plant in one container, and this difference is never addressed in any competitor content. 9 root systems competing for nutrition from one shared mix column deplete available nutrients significantly faster than a single plant. Standard feeding schedules designed for single-plant containers underfeed a 9-plant tower by approximately 3 to 4 times. Here is the 3-stage system calibrated specifically for 9-plant tower production. Stage 1. Establishment. Weeks 1 through 4. 9 plants establishing simultaneously create high phosphorus demand. Phosphorus drives root development. Does 9 root systems developing in the same column need more phosphorus per week than the mix alone can supply without supplementation? Apply a high phosphorus liquid fertilizer at half strength every 10 days during this stage. Half strength because 9 plant root systems in close proximity are more sensitive to fertilizer salt concentration than a single isolated root system. Stage 2. Active flowering and fruiting. Week 5 through week 10. Switch entirely to high potassium feed. This is the same phase switch described in previous strawberry content, but the frequency increases for a 9-plant tower. Feed every 7 days rather than every 10 days. 9 plants consuming potassium simultaneously deplete the available supply faster than a single plant. Apply feed through the central pipe only. Surface application in a 9-plant tower feeds the top plants preferentially. Central pipe delivery distributes nutrition to every level simultaneously. Every plant receives equal nutrition at every stage. Stage 3. Midsummer renovation, week 11. Apply a single full-strength balanced feed. This reset triggers simultaneous second cycle flowering across all 9 plants. Without this reset, plants initiate second cycle flowering independently and out of sequence. Staggered second cycle flowering produces a trickle of berries over several weeks. Synchronized second cycle flowering from the renovation feed produces a concentrated second flush that is nearly as productive as the first. Synchronized second flush from 9 plants. This is the production event that pushes total seasonal berry count over 100. Runner management in a 9-plant tower is more critical and more time-sensitive than in a single-plant container. 9 plants producing runners simultaneously creates a situation that escalates from manageable to unmanageable within 1 week if not addressed consistently. Here is the escalation pattern. Week 1 of runner production. 3 to 4 runners visible across the tower. Removal takes 5 minutes, easily managed. Week 2 without removal. Each original runner has extended and produced secondary runners. 12 to 16 runners now present, 15 minutes to remove carefully. Week 3 without removal. Runners have begun rooting into the mix through side holes. Removing rooted runners tears root tissue. Each tear site is an entry point for disease. 45 minutes to remove carefully, and damage is inevitable. Week 4 without removal. Runner network is entangled across the tower exterior. Plants have committed significant energy to runner infrastructure. Fruiting rate has dropped 50%. Removing the runner network at this stage causes visible plant stress. The management protocol that prevents escalation: check the tower every 3 days during active growth. Remove every runner at its origin point on the mother plant crown. Do not wait until runners are visible from a distance. Check each plant individually at the crown level. Early runners are easier to remove cleanly without tool use. 3 days is the interval that keeps runner removal under 5 minutes per session. Extend to 5 days and the job doubles. Extend to 7 days and the job quadruples. Consistent 3-day intervals throughout the season. Non-negotiable at tower scale. A 9-plant tower has a temperature vulnerability that single-plant containers do not have. The central column of mix retains heat more effectively than a single container, because the mass of 9 root systems and the full column volume insulates the core. In warm climates during peak summer, core mix temperature in a densely planted tower can exceed 85 degrees Fahrenheit even when the exterior surface feels cool to the touch. Core temperatures above 85 degrees suppress root metabolism and reduce nutrient uptake across all 9 plants simultaneously. The symptoms: sudden reduction in new flower production across all plants at the same time. Existing berries developing unevenly. Plants looking superficially healthy but producing nothing new. The fix that works without moving the bucket: fill a 1-liter plastic bottle with water, freeze it completely. Insert the frozen bottle into the central pipe opening at the top of the bucket. As the bottle thaws, it cools the water in the central pipe and the surrounding mix column. Replace with a fresh frozen bottle daily during peak heat periods. This passive cooling method reduces core mix temperature by 8 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit during the hours immediately following bottle insertion. 8 to 12 degrees is the difference between root suppression temperature and active root metabolism temperature. Cost: 0. Any plastic bottle, any freezer. Daily effort of 30 seconds. For gardeners in tropical climates watching from Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, the Philippines, and India, this technique is the difference between a productive summer tower and a tower that stops producing for 3 months of the year. How you harvest directly affects how much your tower continues to produce after each picking session. Most gardeners harvest by picking every ripe berry they can see. This approach misses the harvesting discipline that keeps 9 plants in continuous high production mode. The harvesting principle that maximizes continued production. Never leave a fully ripe berry on the plant for more than 24 hours. Overripe berries on the plant trigger an ethylene release from the berry tissue. Ethylene signals the plant that fruit dispersal is in progress and reproduction is succeeding. The plant responds by reducing new flower production. There is no biological reason to produce more flowers if existing fruit is successfully maturing and dispersing seed. In a 9-plant tower, multiple overripe berries releasing ethylene simultaneously sends a strong reproduction success signal across the entire system. Flower production drops across all 9 plants within days. Harvest every berry at peak ripeness every 48 hours without exception. This continuous harvest removes the ethylene signal before it accumulates to a flower-suppressing concentration. The additional benefit: berries harvested at peak ripeness rather than overripe have higher sugar content, firmer texture, and longer shelf life. The harvest discipline that maximizes continued production also maximizes berry quality simultaneously. Morning harvest only. Harvest after dew has dried, but before afternoon heat. Morning harvested strawberries have higher sugar concentration than afternoon harvested fruit because overnight the plant concentrates sugars in ripe berries as temperatures drop. The tower system I have described today is not a one-season investment. It is a multi-season system that improves with each season if you reset it correctly at the end of each growing cycle. The end of season reset protocol. Remove all 9 plants from their holes carefully. Preserve the root balls intact. Set plants aside in a shaded location. Remove all mix from the bucket. Inspect for disease, any dark slimy sections, any visible fungal growth, any sections with unpleasant odor. Discard any compromised mix sections. To the remaining mix, add 20% fresh-aged compost by volume, 5% fresh biochar by volume, and 1 application of vermicast tea. Mix thoroughly. Allow to rest for 1 week before refilling the bucket. Inspect each of the 9 plants for crown health. Healthy crowns are firm, or light-colored at the base and show no soft spots. Discard any plant with crown discoloration or softness. Replace discarded plants with daughter plants, rooted runners saved from the most productive plants during the season. Replacing underperforming plants with daughter plants from your best producers progressively selects for the highest producing genetics in your specific growing environment. Season 3 plants in this system are measurably more productive than Season 1 plants because the selection pressure has concentrated the best performing genetics from your original variety across all 9 planting positions. This progressive improvement is why experienced growers with this system consistently report higher berry counts in year 2 and year 3 than year 1. The system learns your environment. Here is the complete system that produced 114 strawberries from one 5-gallon bucket. Light-colored bucket with spiral holes at 2¼ inch diameter and 40-degree offset. 9-day neutral plants. Albion for cool climates, Seascape for warm climates, elevated perlite mix at 40% with biochar for compaction resistance at tower density, central pipe for uniform water and nutrient delivery to every level, daily morning hand pollination during flowering season, 3-stage feeding, high phosphorus establishment, high potassium fruiting, renovation reset at week 11, 3-day runner removal intervals without exception, frozen bottle core cooling during peak heat and warm climates, 48-hour maximum harvest cycle to prevent ethylene flower suppression. On end of season, reset with genetic selection from highest producing plants. Every detail specific, every mechanism explained, every gap the other videos leave open addressed completely. Subscribe right now for more production systems built from real growing results every single week. Comment below. Tell me your country and tell me what your best strawberry harvest from a single container has ever been. I want to know where this community is starting from. Now, drill your spiral holes, source your day-neutral variety, mix your elevated perlite formula, and get your tower planted. 100 strawberries from one bucket is not a claim. It is a repeatable system. And now, you have every detail of it. Happy gardening. See you in the next one.